We do it every week here on The Authority. We talk some Reds baseball. Dave Collins and Richard Skinner from Local12.com. Good to see you guys. Dave, I'll start with you. Trade. Okay. Hold on.
It sounded like a good start, dude.
4, 3, 2.
We do it every week here on The Authority. We talk some Reds baseball with Dave Collins and Richard Skinner from Local12.com. Dave, I'll start with you. Trade deadline, it's over. We're seeing the pieces kind of activated. Do you like the moves more and more now that we see what they got in return and the young guys pitching very well?
Yeah, I think the one really encouraging sign for the Reds is the young pitchers they have. And maybe the two pitchers we haven't seen, Jody Reed, who is in the Cueto deal, the lefty. He's only given up 1 run in 3 starts down there and has totally dominated in Double-A. And then I'm anxious to see Robert Stevenson. I mean, they've got to find a guy that can fill in that number 1 slot. You've got Homer Bailey coming back, hopefully healthy, but they're in a good position in pitching depth, and I think that's really encouraging.
Oh, I think the biggest part, too, is I think everybody thought that this trade deadline meant that this was the end of anything they were going to do in the future. I mean, you can deal some young arms. You can deal maybe Chapman in the offseason. You could, if you wanted to, you could deal Jay Bruce. I'm not in favor of that, mind you, but this doesn't mean that this trade deadline was the end of this. It was the end of it for right now. There's still an offseason and another trade deadline because this team is not going to contend next year. It needs to look forward to a year out beyond that in 2017.
And what I like about the moves is they have time to give these young arms chance to develop.
Right,
none of these guys has to be rushed up right away. 56 rookie starts so far this season. They have the luxury of time and depth and commodity right now.
Yeah, and that's the great part is, you want to give a guy a 10-start stint and decide, all right, we like him or we don't like him. Maybe it's a 15-start stint, whatever that is. That gives you all kinds of luxury. Or say, you know what, we like you, but let's send you back to Louisville for 3 months and then bring you back again and see what you got. You've got a year plus to decide all that because, as Dave mentioned, Homer Bailey's coming back. But he's coming back mid-season next year, if not beyond mid-season. And so it's not like you're going to get him and plug him into the number 1 spot in the rotation. By the time he's ready to go, it's 2017. That's your new target date. I know fans hate to hear all of that stuff, but that's your new target date for when you have a chance to maybe do something.
And Dave, you have time to see if these guys are starters and relievers as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when guys come up and what they do initially, that's not necessarily what they're going to do long term.
Both good and bad.
That's exactly right. When Cueto first came up, he wasn't dominating. He learned how to pitch and put it all together, and you just don't know who's going to get it and who's not. But from what you see, you can tell there's a lot of potential with the Reds and a lot of depth, and I think that's really encouraging for him.
We'll call it the All-Star hangover. Todd Frazier struggled ever since the mid-season classic. What do you make of that? I think that he said it's a little bit of it, but I think it's a big part of it.
I think it's a huge part of it. The funny part is the power drought started way before actually going to the All-Star game. It was a 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10-day drought, even maybe longer than that. But he actually started hitting the ball right before the All-Star break. He was like 6 for his last 14, so it wasn't like he went in 0 for 14. But the power drought before that, and now all of a sudden the fact that he can't hit anything after that tells me that I'm not so sure I take part in the home run derby anymore. I know that sounds simplistic.
Well, he's got the title, so now, I
know, right. I mean,
retire the belt.
He's done it a couple years. Yeah. He did it with family involved, and it was great. It was here in this ballpark. But I would almost tell you, just don't do it again because it doesn't do you much good.
Yeah, you know what, Skin? The other thing is when Frazier came up his first year, when he was plugged into the middle lineup, he did a phenomenal job. But he got tired towards the end of the season, and that's been his history since he's been up here. And he gets tired late in the season, and hopefully somehow they'll be able to maybe get a little backup for him and give him a little bit more rest so they can keep his production at a high level.
And Skinny, we'll close with some Bengals talk. You've been out there. I've seen you out there. What have you liked that you've seen so far? What do you still need to see heading into a Friday's game against the Giants?
I think the biggest part is I need to see these guys against somebody else under fire. I've seen Geno Atkins occasionally dominate the Bengals' second-team offensive line, which he should. Yeah. I need to see him do that on Friday night when they play the Giants. I need to see A.J. McCarron do what he did in the mock game. He blew me away because he's been so inaccurate throughout camp. He was good late on Friday night. You saw some of that. He was great yesterday in the mock game. And some of that, again, it's against the twos, but it was with the one offensive line, so it gave him some protection. I need to see him do that when somebody's blitzing and when it's it's their ones maybe coming at him. I doubt he's going to see some ones, but he might. I would almost think they would try to plug him into that. Those are the things I need to see. But it's a team that you look, as long as you stay injury-free, it's a good group.
And finally, our poll question, who wins more games, Bengals or Bearcats football? What do you think?
Boy, I really
That's a
like
good one.
I like the Bengals this year. I think they're going to put it all together this year, and hopefully they will.
I'm going to go UC football. I think they get to 11 and the Bengals get to 10. That's a great question, though.
Good seasons for both, if that's where they end up.
No question, no question. A playoff and maybe, who knows, a major bowl game for UC.
Yeah, guys, as always, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Brad.